Madam Chair, we'll run through the hearing agenda real quick, and then I believe we have some introductions of some State Historic Preservation Office staff that we can go through as well.
Great, thanks, Josh.
So a fairly full agenda tonight with December's meeting cancellation. So item number 1 on 10th Street, we are going to need to hear that item. Item number 2 on Crawl. We would recommend for the consent agenda.
Does anybody have any opposition to putting that on the consent agenda, or any questions we can deal with at a staff level before we move that to consent? All right.
Okay, perfect. Item number 3, we will need to hear on 14th Street. Same with item number 4 on 22nd Street. We will need to hear that item as well. Item number 5 on 15th Street, we will hear. Item number 6 on McKinley, we will hear as well. And then we would propose item number 7 on 12th for the consent agenda.
All right. Does anybody have any opposition to moving 7 on the consent? All right, great.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then just a couple of quick introductions. I wanted to introduce Olivia Harris, our new assistant historic preservation planner. She's the behind the scenes magic, a lot of the staff level approvals and assisting customers, answering phone calls. She's started with us just before Christmas. So happy to have her on board. And then I also think Dan Everhart is here with an introduction of a new staff member at State Historic Preservation Office. Dan, if you want to just go up and take over, that'd be great. That microphone, you might need to turn that on.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Dan Everhart. I work for the Idaho State Historic Preservation Office. Do you need my full address?
No,
okay. I am here to, well, because we should always check in once in a while with our commissioners. But I am pleased to introduce tonight our new certified local government planner at the State Historic Preservation Office. Her name is Maria Rochelle. I'll let her speak for herself in a moment, but just wanted to sort of bring you all up to speed. We've had a vacancy in our office, with our CLG planner for about 12 months. And so we're really pleased. Maria joined the office in the first week of November, and she is going to hopefully in the next 12 months, make her way around to all 40 of our certified local governments. And I don't know if you know that, but you're just one of 40, maybe the most important one. That's what I say when I'm in front of any given community. But you're one of 40, and Maria is going to do her best to meet all of our communities who we partner with. So Maria, do you want to just say hello?
Hi, everyone. As Dan said, I'm Maria Rochelle. I came to Boise by way of Jackson Hole, where I was for the past 4 years working for the National Park Service. So excited to be here and meeting people across Idaho. And especially as a Boise resident, this is a great meeting for me to attend, but excited to partner with Richard and see what we can do for preservation here in Boise.
Great. Thanks for being here, Maria. And
Thank
Dan.
you.
Welcome.
Okay, with that, we will get the hearing started here in about 10 minutes. Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks.
Okay, Madam Chair, if you're ready, it's 6 o'clock.
It is now 6 o'clock. I'll be calling the Historic Preservation meeting to order. It is January 30th, 2023. My name is Jillian Maroney, and this is my first meeting that I'm chairing, so I just want to put it out there. Please bear with me. I have a fantastic vice chair who will be helping me with things, but there's obviously a lot of people here, so let's all be intentional with our time. I'm excited you're here and you're passionate about what's happening in our community. With that, I'd like to ask our clerk to call roll.
Pape.
Here.
Husky. Maroney.
Here.
Montoto.
Here.
Malloy.
Here.
Kintai. Honor. Parks,
Here.
5 present, 3 absent.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the approval of the November 28th, 2022 minutes.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the November 28th, 2022 meeting minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Montoto. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Malloy. Please call the roll.
Pape. Pape,
Sorry. Aye.
Maroney,
Aye.
Montoto.
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Parks,
Aye.
all in favor, motion carried.
Thank you. Next, we will create the consent agenda. Right now, we have 2 items on the consent agenda. The first item is item number 2, DRH 22-00425, Gary McAllister. The addresses are 616 and 622 East Crowell Street. I have 2 people signed up. Is anybody here to oppose this project or these projects? Yeah.
So when the plan, it has to come back before HPC finally have a plan for the property.
I'm going to ask staff about that.
Yes, that is correct. Any certificate of appropriateness to build on the parcels that will be created eventually after the removal of the non-contributing buildings and excluding the contributing house, which is to remain. Yes, when the new design comes, it'll have to go through a certificate of appropriateness process and be heard.
Okay, so there's nobody here that is against this item. Nobody online. Okay, we'll move that one to consent then. The second item on our consent agenda is item number 7, DRH 22-00441. And I do not have anybody signed up. Is there anybody here wishing to testify against this project? It's Amy Algier. The address is 1013 North 12th Street. All right, hearing no opposition, I'll move that to the consent agenda as well. So on the consent agenda, we have DRH 22-00425 and DRH 22-00441. And I'm going to move to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'll second that. But before we call the roll, can we verify that the applicants are in agreement with staff's recommendations for
Thank you.
approval?
Yes. Do we have, I'm going to start with item number 2, DRH 22-00425. Is the applicant here? And are you in agreement with staff's recommendations for approval? Okay, great. Thank you so much. And then the next one is DRH 22-00441. Is the applicant here?
I'm online.
Great. Thanks, Amy. Are you in agreement with staff's recommendations for conditions of approval?
Yes, we are.
Great. Thank you. All right, we'll move them both to the consent agenda. We have a motion and a second from Montoto. Can you please call roll?
Pape,
Aye.
Maroney,
Aye.
Montoto,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Parks,
Aye.
all in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. All right, with that, we'll be moving to new business. First on our agenda is DRH 22-00380, James Ritter. This was deferred from the November meeting. The address is 1706 North 10th Street. The certificate of appropriateness to demolish an existing non-contributing structure and construct a new single-family residence with detached garage on a property in an R-1CH, single-family residential with historic overlay zone. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to staff to hear their report.
Okay, as was stated, this is the approval to demolish the non-contributing structure and construct a new residence with a detached garage on that property. This is the location from an aerial map. This is a photograph of the existing house. And in here we have a letter. This was something that we had the issue with before that has been resolved, the discrepancy between it being a contributing or non-contributing based on state records versus our records. Their records were showing it was contributing. The city of Boise's records showed that it was non-contributing. The city of Boise's records carry, so it should be, in this case, considered non-contributing. And it's led us to a staff protocol where with any future application where demolition is proposed, we get verification that we are in agreement and resolve things beforehand before it comes to a commission meeting. Here's the site plan. And in the prior submittal, it was a somewhat taller building and it had a wider dormer. And as you can see in the revised submittal, they made some modifications. The narrower dormer, and it's dropped by 1.7 feet, or it's in the report, whatever the actual number was, but the overall height has been reduced too. So that will help with the visual. And this is an email that was provided by the applicant with regards to the lot coverage. I think that was one of the major issues last time, as well as the contributing, non-contributing was the 47% lot coverage, and they were providing rationale in the email that's included in the packet. And they hope that the commission can consider that. Most of this has been said in my presentation, but yes, and so yeah, with that, I will end my presentation.
Okay, thank you, staff. Next, I'd like to ask if the applicant is present, and you can step forward and state your name and your full address.
1601 North 11th Street.
Great. Would you mind stepping up to the podium? Perfect. Thank you. And you have 20 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, this, I don't consider myself an anxious person, but this process has raised my anxiety levels to a place I've never experienced them before. But I do have good notes, so we'll see if I can get through this without stumbling too much. First thing, though,
Mr. Ritter, could you just pull the microphone up to your, there you go. So we
like right in front.
folks online can catch you. Yeah, perfect.
Okay. I want to share a little background on why I'm asking to build a home 1 block away from where I currently live, as you know, at 1601 North 11th Street. I believe it's pertinent to the decisions to be made tonight. In 2020, my neighbor at 1110 Eastman, Sherry Bazzano, and I know I'm mispronouncing her last name, I apologize. She submitted plans to add a second home to the substandard corner lot to my south. The application was unanimously approved by the Historic Committee, fully supported by Nina, and despite written and verbal objections from all the immediate neighbors, it was passed by the city as well. Once fully approved, Sherry, who's a local realtor, decided to put the property on the market, understandably, take advantage of the conditions at the time. Within about a week or so, a local Airbnb investor purchased the property and started building late last year. And I've got some visual aids here, some pictures. Do I approach the bench or what do
Yeah,
I?
you can bring them up.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
So those are pictures of the nearly completed house with the original house over to the left. Some details of the project are as follows. There's a total of 2,602 square feet. There's a 45.6% lot coverage. In order to get the new house to fit on the lot, 2 variances were requested and approved. The first was a street side setback variance from 15 feet down to 10 feet or 5 feet. So the house actually sits 5 feet in from the sidewalk. The second was a garage setback from 20 feet down to 15. And the garage is actually, you can't really tell from the pictures, the front of the house. There were a few historic guidelines that were ignored in the process. 5.1.2, environmental impact on neighbors of casting shadows in the south facing facade of an adjoining property. This building is actually 2.5 stories tall. So it has blocked virtually all of my south-facing windows. So I've lost all of my, or most of my passive solar heat. The house is obviously quite a bit darker and cooler in the winter. 5.4.8, design and construct garage as part of a primary building. Primary buildings should not have garages that enter in the front of the house. And both of those situations are present in this design. It also violates criteria. I'm not going to read, it's a really long number. Substandard lots of record, privacy impact on adjacent yards. Now the house actually has a small deck, the very back, and due to the height of the house, it looks down into my backyard. So virtually eliminating any privacy I had in my backyard. In addition, the window placements on the north side of the house are such that they are directly across from my windows, but the height of the house, they kind of look down. And not that I do anything more weird than anybody else in the privacy of my own home, but you know, my dog loves when I talk to her and sing to her, but that's it. And it's just disturbing to have strangers be able to look down into your windows. So I essentially live with the blinds up at this point. After the framing was completed, the reality of the negative impact on the quality of life that I enjoyed in my home became apparent. So when 1706 North 10th Street came up for sale, I verified with city records that it was non-contributing. And I made a substantial investment to purchase the property with the idea of being able to build and move away from the situation that I found myself in, my current home. The lot on 1706 is actually 5 feet wider than my lot on 11th Street. So I had a reasonable expectation I could build something similar to what I built on 11th Street, especially considering what was recently approved to my south. However, I didn't want to do what was done to me, so I immediately engaged my neighbors to the north, the south, and the west. I gave them the plans that we had drafted. They had a chance to review all those plans, provide feedback, and we adjusted the plans before they were ever submitted to the city. All 3 neighbors have submitted written support of this project. Regarding the neighborhood, there are actually 18 homes within a 1-block radius that are either 2-story or 1.5-story tall. And I've got more pictures. There's 2 each. So 1701 North 10th Street has a 2-story garage ADU, which, as you can see from the picture, is clearly visible from the street. That picture is taken from 10th Street looking at the house. 1716 North 10th is a bad picture, but it's a true 2-story home. And then 1718 North 10th has a 2-story garage. I don't know if it's an ADU or just a tall garage. It's built in front of a small bungalow. So once again, clearly visible from the street. In addition, my current home on 11th Street sits on a 2,875 square foot interior lot. It has a 47% lot coverage. And those plans were unanimously approved by the Historic Committee, and Nina never raised any objections whatsoever. When designing the 10th Street plans, we used my plans for 11th Street as a guide, but eliminated the upstairs living and set the floor joists level with the foundation, and the foundation is as close as possible to the grade. So this way we could reduce the height of the building, help it blend with the neighborhood. It also allowed me to build something with fewer steps, obviously, because I want to create something with main level living where I can age in place. And, you know, not that I'm going to be planning on being a walker or wheelchair anytime soon, but this isn't a spec home. This is a home I want to build and live in for as long as possible. So main level living is what I'm trying to accomplish. So based on the feedback from the last meeting, we came up with a few concessions and met with Richard and Josh to get their feedback. Specifically, what we did is, Richard had mentioned, we reduced the pitch of the roof. That brought the height of the building down 2 feet. We did the same thing to the garage, so now the garage is lower than the house. We also reduce the size of the dormer. There was, at the first meeting, there was an issue of it being a 2-story-ish design because of the volume in the attic. So reducing the width of that dormer from 8 to 6 eliminates that problem. And now it's a true 1.5-story structure. We also talked about, though, changing the footprint, reducing the size of the building. As you know, building on a substandard lot is difficult. And especially we're trying to do a main level living, and taking that design and trying to squeeze it in tighter is just, it defeats the purpose of the plan. So we gave up on doing that. But based upon the approvals of my current home plans on 11th, what was recently approved to my south, and the full support of my immediate neighbors, I believed I had a very reasonable expectation for support for my project. I was a little shocked and not very disappointed that any objections came up at the last meeting. And all I'm respectfully asking the committee is to please be consistent with what has been approved in the past in my immediate neighborhood, and take into consideration that I've got full support from the neighbors who are most impacted by this project. And they all think it's going to be a positive change and contribute to the neighborhood. So I have.
Thank you. Wait just a second. Does any commissioners have any questions or comments for the applicant? No. All right. You can sit down and you'll have an opportunity for a rebuttal. Next up would be our designated neighborhood association. Do we have a representative here? Thank you. Please state your name and address.
Madam Chairwoman, Sandy Herman, 1404 North 7th Street. We appreciate that the height of both the home and the ADU garage have been reduced, and the square footage of the second-story attic has been reduced, and we continue to be concerned about massing on this project. As far as we can tell, the footprint of the structure still remains at 45%. Coverage of the existing limit on small lots is 35%. We know of several successful projects that have adhered to the 35% lot coverage, including one between 4th and 5th on O'Farrell. And we would really like this standard to be upheld. One of the ways that we've seen some projects work this way is to reduce to a 1-car garage on lots like that. This block is home to some of the smallest houses in the neighborhood, and 2 of the houses on the same side of the block, including the one directly to the north, set back from the street quite a bit. And we are worried that this project will look a little out of place, a bit like a condominium amongst cottages. And we agree with the example the homeowner just gave you, with how that project right next to his house looked, and that's what we're trying to avoid. And we don't want to see any more things like that in the neighborhood. We'd also like to request that the homeowner consider permeable paving and downshaded lighting on this project. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for the neighborhood association? No? Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Now I'd like to open it up to the general public. I don't have anybody on my sign-up sheet, but is anybody in the audience that wish to testify either in favor or against this project? Anybody online? No? All right. With that, I will give the applicant their 5-minute rebuttal. You can come back up.
So with all due respect, the concern of the neighbor's house being set back, that's the neighbor that supports this project. They've submitted a letter based on the initial feedback from Nina. I believe you have that in your file from Andrew. As far as massing, this isn't a huge home. It's not a massive home. It's basically this, it's almost the same height as the home that it sits there right now. So I'm not trying to build something that's going to be a sore thumb. And once again, the neighbors that are most impacted by this design fully approved the project. I'm not sure what else there was. I think the massing, the setback, and that's kind of it, I guess. So,
Great.
all right,
Madam
thank
Chair,
you.
I have a question for the applicant. Nina did mention that they would like to see the use of permeable paving
Oh.
and downshaded lighting. Is that something you're open to?
We had that in the plan.
Oh,
Yes.
excellent. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Does anybody else have a question for the applicant before we close the?
I'll have a question. So your current garage is one or two cars?
Two.
Two.
The-
Would you be?
My current garage on
Sorry,
the
not your current, the one you're planning to build.
two.
Two. Are you open to a one-car garage that Nina's suggesting to help meet the coverage, the lot coverage?
So I gave up accessible storage to reduce the height to address the massing concerns. And the garage really, I guess short answer is no. I've got a lot of stuff, and I've got two cars. I can't park in the garage right now, so having I can't park both of them. So having just a little bit more width allows me to park my car off street as opposed to on street. So
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? No?
Okay.
Thank you. With that, I'll close the public portion of the meeting, and I'll open it up to discussion or a motion from my fellow commissioners.
Madam Chair, if I may get us started on some discussion.
Yes, please.
So I was on the commission when we decided to increase lot coverage on substandard lots. And originally it was 30%. We increased it to 35% so that accommodations could easily be made without having to come to a hearing, which is a lot. And we knew that at some point when further down the road, we would start probably seeing applications trying to push that 35%. By 40%, 45%, 47%. And this is really hard for me because I absolutely recognize the need for aging in place. It's incredibly difficult to do that in a historic home. And it's incredibly difficult to do that well on a substandard lot. So I truly empathize with that. However, I don't know. I'm just really struggling with the lot coverage issue. I know that 5% doesn't seem like a lot, but we've already made these pretty significant accommodations. And if we keep pushing the envelope, it's only going to continue to be pushed. So those are my thoughts right now. And I do want to echo Nina's concerns of massing. Looking at those photos, it's pretty significant visually. And I understand that the current neighbors may be in support of this proposed project as is. But it is a permanent project. And we have to consider that when making our decision, in addition to the guidelines that we're bound to in making these decisions. So I'm interested to hear what my fellow commissioners think.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll add to the discussion. I agree with Commissioner Montoto about the lot coverage and the massing. I think the biggest thing for me is the lot coverage. And I think if they can do a one-car garage and shrink it down and help meet that standard, I'd be for approval of the application if they can do a one-car instead of two-car garage.
Right.
I would support that as well. I don't know if that's something that we can revisit with the applicant since the public portion of the hearing has been closed, but Josh, can
Josh?
Can you clarify?
Madam Chair, you could reopen the public portion of the hearing. It would open it up to all parties to testify again.
Okay, thank you. So maybe we'll finish some discussion within ourselves and then we can decide if that's the direction that we want to go. I do appreciate this project that he's gone around. He's talked to the neighbors. You know, he seems well versed with the code. He's done redesigns and he's trying to accommodate, you know, many of our requirements. It is a substandard lot. This is, you know, one of the smaller homes we've seen proposed lately, which is nice. But I do think, you know, this 2-car garage is kind of a hangup. There's not many 2-car garages in the north end. I understand the need for storage, but given the lot and the constraints around it, if this is the sticking point for the project for some of my other commissioners, I can see maybe we can come to some consensus around that garage that would bring down the footprint of the house. Other thoughts or comments?
Madam Chair,
Yes, please.
I would back up a lot of those comments as well. Living a block away from this area, it is significant, the size of these homes, and walking across it every day. It is significant, and I would piggyback off of the comments made by the other commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioner Pape. So would we like to reopen and see if we can talk about the 1-car garage?
I would support that, Madam Chair.
Okay, so let's open back up the public portion of the meeting. Call the applicant, right? Mr. Ritter, would you like to come back up? I know, we're not going to let you. So it sounds like, you know, the footprint really is the sticking point for the commission. We do see every month somebody asking, you know, to build something that takes up more than that 35%. One way that we've identified that's easy is obviously this 2-car garage. Would you be willing to do a 1-car garage?
So if I do a 1-car garage, can it be where there's a 1-car garage and a place to park next to it? Is that
Like a driveway, do you mean? Like,
Yeah. permeable?
I don't have a problem with that. Oh, here's stuff.
Yes, that could happen. You could have open air parking space beside the garage. Yeah.
Okay.
That's doable.
The main thing with the 2-car garage is well, so I have a 1966 Volkswagen bus, which is you know, it needs to be parked in the garage for insurance purposes. So that takes up a portion. And then I prefer not to take up a parking spot in the street, especially on 10th. It's pretty crowded. So yeah, having the ability to at least park, not on street, off street would be helpful.
Great, thank you. Any comments for the applicant?
Oh, I would just say that sounds like could be a really nice sort of path forward. I was wondering trying to do some quick math, what the delta in square footage, what the square footage
Change.
differentiation is. Yeah. Mhm.
Is there something that we're shooting for? Do we
Yeah,
just?
well, if
Right.
if that puts it within compliance or, you
Or
know,
close
this,
to.
right, yeah.
Staff, do you have a general number of what a 1-car garage might be or a range?
400.
Just based on most 2-car garages being somewhere in the vicinity of a 20 by 24 plus or minus a couple feet structure. Maybe like a 12 by 20 could be but it's a bus, so it might have to be a little bit longer. So it's kind of math on the fly. Yeah.
I think we tried to
Maybe
get that.
280, maybe a 280 square foot, plus or minus 10 or 20.
Mhm.
Versus what, you know, whatever. I can't recall the square footage of the original garage.
I think we had a 3-foot setback on one side and 5 foot on the other, or maybe it's 3 on both.
It's looking like 3 on both,
Yeah,
according
3
to
on both.
the
Okay.
drawing here.
483 square feet is the current garage square footage in the original proposal. So that would be a drop of, you know, whatever wide range of 150 to 200 is possible.
Okay. So do we feel good about that?
I'm
Calculating or doing math?
Oh, yeah. Can we get a calculation just for the record? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you to work.
Well, I mean, if lot coverage is truly the sticking point, just fully understanding what it is that we would potentially agree to.
Absolutely.
We are estimating that would be about a 6% reduction. So that would get us closer to the 40 or right in the sweet spot near 40, which is 5 over.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I would be comfortable moving forward with that.
Okay. Do you have any comments, or I'm going to open it to everyone again?
No, I mean, I'm, if that is the requirement and I can at least have a spot to park off street, then yeah, I'm okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak? Or Nina, would you like to come up and?
We'd be in favor of the one car garage solution, and just as an emphasis there, I think they were asking for a 3-foot setback on the garage that wouldn't have to happen now. And just for perspective, the house north of this lot is only 17% coverage, and the house just to the south of it is in the 20s or something. So that's why we had concerns.
Thank you. And just for the record, your name and address,
Oh,
please.
sorry. Sandy Herman, 1404 North 7th.
Great. Thank you, Sandy. Is there anybody else in the audience wishing to testify at this time? Anybody online? All right. With that, I'll close the public comment period and we'll open it up for discussion amongst the commissioners.
Madam Chair, if I may, quickly, I think it's really important, as Sandy mentioned, the lower percentage lot coverages, these were historically modern homes. These were not big McMansions. These were really humble neighborhoods and areas. And that's really one of the main reasons why we're here, is to preserve what that looked like. And so I want to commend the applicant for his willingness to allow this pretty significant change to his design. We don't see that type of collaboration with something so significant often. So thank you very much, Mr. Ritter. And if there isn't any other comments, I would be happy to make a motion. If not, I would love to hear the other comments.
Any other comments, or can we move to motion? All right, you're up.
Okay, Madam Chair, I move to approve DRH 22-00380. Per the recommended conditions of approval in the staff report, adding that the garage become a one-car structure with, was it 280 square feet? With 280 square feet, not to exceed 35% lot coverage.
I think we were down closer to 40% lot coverage with that.
Oh, was it? I thought with the drop, it was.
Say approximately 6%. This is math by the fly, but approximately 6% reduction. And we're currently at 45, 47%. So it we getting close
I
to.
have 40% in my, am I on the wrong one? No, I have 40% in my
Oh, is it?
site design. It's on page
Okay.
3 of 9. Are you seeing it?
Yeah.
It says under 3 project proposal, site design land use percentage of the site devoted to building coverage is 40%.
Yeah, I'm the new guy and thought I was just a little confused. So I'm glad you
Yeah.
brought that up. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Because if it is just now coming down to 40%, I'm not okay with that. It's on page 33 of the project report.
Mhm. So just the next page down.
Yeah,
Okay, right,
I'm,
okay.
is that accurate?
Yes, I think that is accurate. I can cross-check real quick with the site plan.
Okay,
See, that's what it is.
yeah.
So the site plan says 47%, but doing the math between the footprints of the dwelling and the garage, it's closer to 40% is the numbers that we're getting. So taking that garage down will get us closer to that 35%.
So it's around 42, I think. Josh just did a calculation.
Okay.
And so that gets it close if you do that 6% reduction.
To 36-ish.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Do I need to restate my motion? No, yes,
Yes.
yes, okay. Madam Chair, I move to approve DRH 22-00380 per staff's recommended conditions of approval, adding that the garage become one car, not to exceed 280 square feet. Period.
Can I hear a second?
I will second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Malloy. Please call roll.
Pape,
Aye.
Maroney,
Aye.
Montoto,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Parks,
Aye.
all in favor, motion carries.
Great, thank you so much. Moving on to our next item, DRH 22-00426, Rodney Evans and Partners. The address is 1718 North 14th Street. It's a certificate of appropriateness to demolish an existing non-contributing structure and construct a new single-family residence and detached garage with an ADU above the property, a single-family residential and historic overlay zone. Staff, can we have the report?
Yes, as stated, we'll get started. This is a non-contributing structure. Here is the site location. On the green. This is a photograph of the existing home. A photograph from the side. It's a corner address of the side. And here's the site plan for what is proposed in its place. And the landscape plan giving an indication of landscape features to be utilized. Now, this came in a previous commission meeting, and based on the feedback from the staff report, the applicant revised the plan to address our issues. We previously recommended denial for this project because of things such as the general massing, the width of the dormer, the use of corten steel to surround the chimney. So anyway, based on the feedback provided, they came up with a revised submittal that addressed those issues. They, as you will see here, they changed the width of the dormer, as you'll see here. The width of the dormer is narrower. They changed the material surrounding the chimney to stucco, and they are no longer having exposed natural wood. All the wood will be painted. It's going to be a natural stone around the front and some of the side elements, as that was before. And there's been a bit of a reduction in the height. I'll get to that with my analysis. So the peak height is now 24 feet 7. And a lot of the adjacent buildings are 1 and 1.5 stories behind and across from Limp Street. And we feel that it's congruous with properties in the vicinity and the materials as mentioned. The drawings do call out black vinyl windows, but vinyl is not allowed in the district. Therefore, I have placed the appropriate condition as is generally placed in these kinds of applications regardless. And I was supposed to be 2 stories in height. The height of the peak of the ADU is 22 feet, putting it 2 feet 7 below the height of the main structure, which is great. And it's all congruous, and that it did not call out black vinyl, but one can assume they had originally intended to use the same material. And so the condition, of course, applies to all structures on the site. And with that, ends my presentation.
Great. Any questions for staff before we hear from the applicant?
I have a question. Richard, in your analysis and findings, you said the house was considered non-contributing from a survey conducted in 1998. And reading throughout all of the findings, I found this one was interesting because you said was considered. In your professional opinion, if you resurveyed the neighborhood, would this be a contributing house?
I understand what you're saying. When I saw that it was considered non-contributing, I did have a brief, really. So none of us can be where they were then when they did that and ticked contributing or non-contributing. There could be anomalies, and it was an unintended error. For example, there's a 1992 Fleetwood mobile home that's contributing to the historic district in another location. So sometimes things just aren't maybe ticked right, but you're asking about my professional opinion. If I were to do a survey now, it does look like a lot of the original materials are there. It looks like the windows may be original. I'd have to dig around to determine that. So there is a chance, maybe in hindsight, if that were to be resurveyed today, that it could be considered contributing. That's just a bird's eye view, not really digging into it. But I think the crux of the reality in the situation is based on the existing survey, it was considered non-contributing then, and that's how the lay of the land is, so to speak, for us considering it now.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Please approach the podium. We need your name and your address. And you have 20 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is that on? Okay, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Ben Semple with Rodney Evans and Partners, 1450 West Bannock Street, Boise, 83702. First and foremost, we are in agreement with the conditions of approval contained in the staff report. Additionally, there were some changes made. It didn't actually make it to the committee last month because there was not a quorum, so we didn't get here. But after we received the staff report, took it back to the architectural designer and the owner, made a lot of changes to it. We're at the 35% lot coverage for this project. Also reduced the height, some of the materials just to comply with those historic guidelines. I think the black vinyl was probably my mistake, adding the wrong, because there's a lot of stuff that pre-populates. I fill out so many applications that it put vinyl. There was also a letter from one of the neighbors immediately to the south. They actually have a very good relationship with the owner because they live just across the alley in a more newly constructed home. So they're going to be moving to this lot. They worked through some of the issues. They're going to be adding the neighbor had misread the elevations of the ADU. There's not a window that faces his property. Regardless of that, the owner is going to use some kind of translucent film on the glass just to protect from views going over into his yard. He actually took the neighbor into his current house and showed him how they treated some of their windows on that one. And he was very happy to see that. Additionally, there is an upper story balcony off of the master that the neighbor had some concerns about, and in discussions with the neighbor, the designer is going to add like a trellis or some sort of screen there to protect, keep any views from that balcony over into his rear yard. Just to touch briefly on contributing versus non-contributing, there are some, aspects of the home that are historic. It's in very bad condition. It's more likely a hazard to go inside of it right now. It's been vacant only for about a year, but it was in fairly bad condition before that as well. So the owners are just looking to build a nice home for themselves and their family, and look forward to continuing to live in this neighborhood. I would stand for questions.
Great. Any questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair, I have a question. Ben, thanks for your clarifications on a lot of that. Can you also clarify what type of window material will be used?
It'll either be wood or that metal wrapped wood per the historic guidelines there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for our applicant? Hearing none. Okay, you can sit down.
Thank you.
Is there a registered neighborhood association present? Name and address, please. And you also
Sure,
have 20
Madam
minutes.
Chairwoman. Sandy Herman, 1404 North 7th Street. We appreciate the new plans have reduced the height of both the garage ADU and the home, and we like the new changes. Our main focus for this property is the trees. We see some trees in the plan for the front of the house on 14th. We'd also like to see some plans for planting several trees in the easement between the sidewalk and Lemp Street. As someone who used to live in that part of the neighborhood and walked around almost daily, that intersection is a bit like crossing the Sahara in the summer. It really needs some shade. And there isn't any trees along that lot on either side right now. Commissioner Malloy, we'd also like to take a moment to point out that we are losing another small house in the neighborhood. This comment is not particularly pointed at this project. The homeowners have done nothing wrong. The house is non-contributing, even as I find it architecturally interesting. And the condition of the existing house is unfortunately not good. The nature of this committee and plans being put in front of you means that change is coming to the neighborhood, and that change is often bigger and better. We would like to encourage the city to go ahead with plans to do new historic survey so we can protect existing houses, more clarity to what is contributing, what is not, and hopefully save some of the smaller ones. Many of us love the neighborhood because of the diversity in housing stock. It allows all kinds of people to live there. We now have an emphasis on density and ADUs, which is great. I'd like to remind everybody that not everyone, especially the elderly or disabled, can live in a second-story ADU. So just having that density doesn't really help. We really do need those one-story, 2-bedroom homes. So that's it for me. Questions?
I do have just one clarification, Madam Chair. Can you confirm the location? Did you say along Lemp and Eastman?
It's Lemp that's on the north side of that lot.
Mhm.
There's no trees at all along that in the easement there.
Okay.
And there isn't any on the 14th side either in the easement, but I do think on their plans, they have trees to go in the yard on the 14th Street side.
Thank you.
So
Thank you. I don't have anybody on my sign-up sheet. Is there anybody in the audience wishing to testify for this project or against this project? Anybody online? No? All right, you have time for rebuttal.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Ben Semple, 1450 West Bannock Street, Boise 83702. Yeah, so I didn't clarify, we are, during our discussions with the city staff, we will be adding street trees to both Lemp and 14th Street frontages in the planter strip there. Yeah, because it is very exposed out there. And then it is unfortunate that we're losing this home. It is, architecturally interesting. That being said, we will still go through the salvage process and everything else that's required per the city's demo standards, so that if there are materials that are able to be salvaged and reused, then that would be accomplished.
Thank you. We love to hear that. Any questions for the applicant? All right, hearing none, I'm going to close the public portion of this,
Thank you.
and I will open it to either a motion or discussion from the commissioners.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I will start us off with some discussion.
Thank you.
As mentioned, for the sake of time, I won't give you a monologue, but we are losing our smaller homes. And this house is so cute. I don't think too many pictures of the original house were shown, but it is just darling. And it is a very sad thing. Although I would like to applaud the applicant for their work in being as intentional as possible with this project. I think it's really refreshing to see, quite honestly. Even I had typed some notes of questions I wanted to ask, and Ben had already addressed them before I even had the chance. So I think that's great. I am in support of this application as it stands and intend to make a motion, but I'd be interested in hearing my fellow commissioners' thoughts.
Thank you, Commissioner Montoto. Any other comments, or are we ready for a motion? Okay.
Okay, I will go ahead. Madam Chair, I move to approve DRH 22-00426 per the recommended conditions of approval in the staff report.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Park. Please call roll.
Pape,
Aye.
Maroney,
Aye.
Montoto,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Marks,
Aye.
all in favor, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Moving on to our next agenda item, DRH 22-00432, Mike Maxfield. The address is 1112 North 22nd Street. A certificate of appropriateness to construct a second-story addition on an existing non-contributing single-story residence and a second-story addition on an existing single-story detached garage on property in a single-family residential with historic overlay zone. Staff, can we get the report?
Yes. Here's the site plan to let you know where it is within the north end. An existing home photo and a photo from the rear just for general conveyance of the property. And the garage that is to go away, and some adjacent properties to give context. Here's the site plan. As you can see from the darker gray areas, the actual from plan addition is not terribly large. This is the original portion of the property, where they're proposed, and this is the original submission. You'll see the later one here in a second. In fact, I'll go ahead and advance to it because based on some feedback, they did some revisions. One thing they revised was the reduction of two of the road. These two columns of solar panels have been eliminated. And there's been some slight tweaks and a slight reduction in the peak height there. And they've changed the porch. There was a second entrance, sort of the mudroom kind of entrance that kind of made it look like it might resemble a duplex, or, somehow that's the way that's perceived. And then they came back with this, as you can see, the reduction of how much further back those are, and the height is still high. It's a two-story, partial two-story kind of rooftop addition. It does set back a bit from the first part sets back about 6 feet, and then the other part is another 6 to 8 feet back. But there's a general sense of asymmetry, as mentioned in the staff report, that is apparent in this design. And there's some more. And so another thing that will be addressed by the applicant and maybe others is they're still intending to propose standing seam metal roof, which is a material that's commonly not present in the district. And as my report says, the Secretary of the Interior Standard Number 9, the size, scale, and proportion and massing should be similar to others in the immediate environment. And this construction has some incompatible materials, features some the size, scale, and proportions and massing, especially the asymmetry aspect of it, which may be addressed by others later on, doesn't seem to meet that standard and our guidelines. And with that, staff recommends denial.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff? Hearing none, is the applicant present? Please approach the podium, state your name and address. And you have 20 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Noelle Martinez, 231 Warm Springs Avenue, Boise, Idaho, 83712. Members of the public and commissioners, thank you for taking time to hear our petition for the Maxfield home. I'm the Maxfield's residential designer with Studio Boise, and I've developed a proposed design for their non-contributing homes, deep energy retrofit and addition. Before I get into too much, I want to clarify one thing, that the garage is not to be demolished. It's clearly marked on the plan, so hopefully you caught that. It is not meant to be demolished, but we are adding a second story onto it. And do you have the, oh, perfect. Thank you so much. All right, well, the first, there's a page above that, actually, if you can go up. I'm not sure if you can, there we go, perfect. Thank you. The first image you see is of the existing home taken from the sidewalk about 5 months ago. It is a single-story home, and I think it's immediately apparent why this home is non-contributing. It lacks the authentic materials. It has a vinyl siding, aluminum windows. It's lacking the details, the windows, the characteristics of a charming contributing North End home. And I would love for you to keep in mind as we go through this project that there is not too much character to preserve or to match in this home right now. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, I love to have the clicker. That's great. But there is a great opportunity when renovating a non-contributing home to provide that character, to bring it into existence. 15 years ago, Chelsea and Mike Maxfield moved into this home as a couple. They're now a growing family of 4 and both working full-time from home. And so the 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom that they love, it just needs more space for their family and for their lifestyle. But also they are taking this on as a significant energy overhaul to take them into the next decades of their lives. The second image is a simple perspective of the proposed home from the street. Historic Guidelines 5.3.1 suggests that the designs maintain, quote, the similarity of building, roof form, and front porches, unquote, found on the block. We really feel we've achieved this by reopening the front porch, stepping back the street-facing gables in line with the front gable, establishing the trim bands, tight lap siding, wood windows, rake brackets, and typical bungalow details that we wish this home had always had and that are typical in the North End. As numerous neighbors have attested, we think this home looks beautiful, that it fits into the North End. It's not asking to demolish an existing structure. It's not asking for a variance, and it's not asking for coverage beyond the recommendations, which is, as we've seen tonight, very rare. The staff report suggests that the addition is inconsistent with historic character of craftsman bungalows, but actually we feel the design very harmoniously satisfies the need for a larger addition. Our proposal for adding needed space and weighing it on the back of the home is an effort to better comply with the historical guidelines as well as the asymmetry. If you look at the images on the right labeled A, B, and then further down A, B, and C, these are examples directly from the guidelines of unacceptable additions. Large two-story boxes with clashing roof styles, two-story additions that eliminate the front massing altogether. The bottom left shows our approach to adding the space that they would like in the home, of stepping volumes back every time we added height to help blend it in with the existing roof lines. The stepped back gables are a classic hallmark of craftsman bungalows that we see all over the north end, like you can see in the images on the middle left side. Now, adding a third row to this pattern might not be as common, but we see this actually as an advantage because the asymmetrical partial second story of this home, it is not original, right? That's what we're really wanting to change. And the Historic Guidelines 10 Standards for Rehabilitation states that, quote, changes that create a false sense of historical development should not be undertaken, unquote. It's always a difficult balance to try to do an addition that blends well and maintains character, but isn't kind of falsely in a silly way, we're trying to mimic the old. And we think that this does that very well. Maybe the discerning onlooker passing by this home would be able to decipher the subtle addition from the original, but without compromising any character. Focusing in on the height, the total height was reduced over the last month. We brought it down about 2 feet from the original by just cutting out as much as we could from living space, structural elements, etc. The tallest gable is set back 16.5 feet from the front of the home, or 36.5 feet from the front lot line. The mid gable is set back 6.5 feet from the front gable, or 26.5 feet from the front lot line. And when experienced in person, we see things in perspective. That stepping back of the height, we felt that really significantly reduces the impact of having a second story on this home. This graphic shows layers of photos taken from the street and the elevation of the Maxfield's proposed remodel and some very approximate volumetric diagrams of their north and south neighbors on 22nd Street. We show this to try to show you the thought process that we were going through and how to get the extra space they need and be very respectful of their neighbors. The Historic Guidelines 5.2.3 asks that the building, quote, be broken up into smaller segments that are more similar to adjacent buildings, unquote. We've achieved this through the design of the roof, actually, where the home maintains a single story height on the right next to their single level neighbor who is closer, and keeps the 2-story portion only on the left side of the home, where their neighbors actually face the adjacent cross street and have a larger rear setback next to them. This map shows a 2-block radius around the Maxfield's lot, not the entire district. Red highlights their lot, orange highlights full 2-story homes, and yellow highlights homes that are 1.5 story within 5 or more feet of our proposed remodel. I didn't update this since we pulled out 2 feet, so there would be a little bit more yellow if we were to go back and measure. And those measurements were taken with a transit from the street. We acknowledge, of course, that this remodel is taking a home from a single level to a partial 2-story home. However, it just doesn't look like this is too unique in their district. We have about 25% of this 2-block radius that have homes that are full 2-story homes or 1.5-story homes that are within 5 feet of what they're proposing. I know that the Maxfields, having gone through this design process with them, I know that they wanted originally, of course, to have a full 2-story across the whole footprint. And I just hope that you can appreciate how much they've already sacrificed and compromised to try to accommodate neighbors that are next to them. I want to take a moment to emphasize that this remodel is not a typical remodel for me, who does a lot of these. It's really not. It's a deep energy retrofit. The Maxfields came to me with extremely high energy goals for the remodel of what is right now a very inefficient home. The remodel plans to bring their home's performance to double of that that is required by code, and also aims to produce, and it's been a huge goal of theirs, to produce as much energy on site as they use throughout the year. Not just at peak times, which is often the case when people add photovoltaics to the home, but throughout the year, constantly giving back to the grid, which requires a large array. Now, are some of the design decisions made to help cater around the on-site energy production? I mean, absolutely. I don't think that climate change is combated by sprinkling features over a building as an afterthought. It absolutely has to be an integral decision, an integral design process to be effective. One of those decisions that helps support the solar array is the black metal seamed roof. First of all, the Maxfields, they aren't the only ones in their district that would have a metal seamed roof. There are a couple examples on the bottom right there, just a couple blocks away, of other homes with metal seamed roofs. The black framed photovoltaics blend with a black metal roof much better than they do with an asphalt shingle or a composite roof. And they also, which is the biggest reason that we would like this roof material, they're the best way to, or the best surface for mounting your PVs, because they don't compromise the roof structure or the air tightness of the structure, which is crucial when you're trying to do a high efficiency home. The photo at the top left is from their solar provider, just showing how the PVs blend really well with this black metal seamed roof. Additionally, they've been from the get-go talking a lot about the carbon footprint of materials that they choose. Sustainability experts estimate that during the lifespan of a metal roof, one will run through and send 2 asphalt shingle roofs to the landfill. So a metal roof is more often actually recycled at the end of its longer life cycle. And while this is our really strong preference for roofing, because it helps so much in attaching a solar array, this is something that the Maxfields are very open to your suggestions, to stipulations on the material. It's more important for them to have the photovoltaics on the roof than have an ideal mounting situation. So we leave that material and carbon footprint up to the committee. I hope that we've sufficiently shown you that we have really thoughtfully and respectfully designed this home. A beautiful deep energy retrofit for the historic North End. We've given a bland, non-contributing home charm while providing a framework that will meet high energy production and efficiency. We really need the support of the Historic Commission for projects that are trying to produce a lot of on-site energy, giving right back to the grid. Also homes that are willing to invest a lot on highly efficient metal-clad wood windows, on adding significant insulation, not just making a home look cute, but really making a home that's going to help our grid over the next decades. And honestly, as you've heard multiple times tonight, I'm tired of seeing homes go to the landfill in the North End and in the East End. And I really was happy to know that they wanted to, while they want to add a lot to the home, they've been willing to work with the existing structure, try to keep the front porch and a lot of elements that it has. And really, I wish that every client that I had would make energy production and efficiency a priority, as the Maxfields have. So please support this project, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, the homeowners would also like to add.
We
is that
still,
all right?
what was there? Five or so minutes? 7 minutes? 8 minutes? Thank you. So please state your name and address.
I'm Chelsea Maxfield, address 1112 North 22nd Street, Boise, Idaho. Good evening. My name is Chelsea. My husband Mike is here behind me, and he'll step up next. We are the owners and the long-term residents of this home. Thank you for taking the time to consider our proposal. We're very interested in working with everyone to meet our needs and arrive at a solution that will work for not only us, but our neighborhood. We are doing this remodel for our family and for sustainability, and as I hope you'll see, to be a good steward of the history in our house and the neighborhood. This is not a frivolous or investment project for us. This is a necessity for our growing family. We moved to the North End almost 15 years ago and chose the North End to be our home base after falling in love with everything the city, the foothills, and the neighborhood offers. Then we purchased this home just before we were starting a family, and it gave us that feeling that we could create our forever home here. And that is our plan with more than 50 years in mind. In addition to the bedrooms upstairs, you will see in our plans a bedroom on the main floor. In the near future, this will be for when one of our aging parents can no longer live on their own and needs to move in with us. In 40 years from now, we plan on needing to move into this bedroom ourselves. At that point, our kids and grandkids can fight over which bedrooms to use upstairs when they visit. Speaking of kids, our young children currently share a room. In our plan, we propose more well-deserved space for our kids as they grow up, and especially needed for future teenage years, especially if we were able to have a third child. And finally, Mike and I are both really lucky to keep our jobs when COVID hit. However, both of us were forced to work from home, and this appears to be permanent. My work desk is currently in our living room, and Mike's desk is wedged between our laundry room and utilities room and our windowless basement. The space above the garage will give us both productive work areas separate from our living space and from our children. Thank you.
I just need your name and address, please.
Mike Maxfield, 1112 North 22nd Street. Thank you for the time to consider our project, and thanks Chelsea and Noel. And I guess I'll try to talk quickly, so sorry. I'm an engineer and a bit of an energy nerd. My wife, Chelsea, is an environmental scientist. As you've heard, we're really attempting to walk a tightrope with this project. Meeting our family needs obviously is how this all started, pulling our weight to reduce our long-term impact on the planet through both a PV array for generation and also almost entirely to passive house levels of demand reduction for the entire house. And through doing all of that, preserving almost the entirety of a 110-year-old house, both for the character and from the landfill. The effort and cost of doing all this are well worth it to our family, but I wanted to emphasize that to make these end meets is a huge undertaking on top of simply doing a new construction house with standard building code. We care deeply about preserving the charm of the neighborhood we love, and which we're actively seeing lost through the numerous new construction projects like what we've seen today and what's happening on my own street. We sincerely hope that you'll value our keeping the historic character inside of the house and out of the landfill, and in doing our best to restore the front facade and the porch and generally bring back as close to the original as we can get from the character of that. As you may have read in our submission, there's some key design elements we feel are very, very valuable and we'd like to reemphasize. From the landfill, as I said, we're keeping nearly the entire structure. And on the inside, we're keeping fully half of the house completely as is. That's floor, walls, trim, ceiling. Our staircase is going to be using original vertical grain flooring that I pulled out myself out of a house down the street from 1915 that was going to be thrown in the landfill. For energy, we're building a fully electric home, and via the investment in local generation, when we are not able to use that full amount of power coming off that, those electrons will be used down the street by our neighbors through the tie-ins to the grid. And through the windows, insulation, air sealing, and a whole host of other details, the house is super insulated, and the demand year round is going to be less than half of what we're using right now, and significantly less than most of these two code projects that are also coming through. And last, aesthetics. The front and most street visible windows on the side are all in precisely the same location using the proper materials, as approved for the period, wood and metal clad. The original 1900s front door preserved, and unlike today, it'll be visible from the street since we're restoring the original open porch. And last, the entire front elevation is as close as possible to the original, really combined with the setbacks Noel talked about, keeping the entire look and feel of the house as authentic as we could make it. And we feel, truly in keeping with character of the North End, contrasting with just a new house. And yeah, so thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicants? No? Yes. You want to use the remainder of your time?
Oh, did you have?
There's-
I just came up for questions.
I don't think we have any questions right now, but there will be an opportunity for rebuttal after we hear from other people. Is there a neighborhood association that's here and wanting to testify? Name and address, please.
Madam Chairman, Sandy Herman, 1404 North 7th. We greatly appreciate the thoughtfulness towards green energy and energy efficiency on this project. The existing roof line is open to the sky and ideal for solar. We recommend revisiting putting solar panels on the garage ADU east-west roof line in order to extend the collecting hours, even if it's shaded for part of the day. I know they're because of losing some of their array, so we thought that might be a partial solution for them. We appreciate that there's been an effort to reduce the height of the project, but we don't think that adding 9 inches of soil on the yard and the landscaping will reduce the appearance of the height in comparison to the other houses on the block. The existing house is amongst the tallest on the block. The modest one-story homes on this block mostly have lower foundations. While the homeowners have shown that there are 2 stories nearby, there are none on the block, and the standard is to compare projects to the homes existing on the block in question only. There is a very diminutive 1.5 story on the corner of this block across the street. We also point out that the homeowners have an enthusiastic support for their project from neighbors that do not reside on the block but are in the neighborhood, and that the only response from the neighbors on the block has a concern about the height as well. The height on this project could shade neighbors to the north and eliminate their opportunity for a similar solar energy project. They have 2 houses on Brumback because of the way those houses face Brumback instead of the 22nd. So there are 2 houses there that could be affected by that on the north side. In the past, the HPC has recommended going to the basement for additional living space. We recommend that the homeowners consider this to reduce the height of the project. One of the best ways to reduce your carbon footprint is to reduce your living square footage, and basements proven to be energy efficient. The current project calls for an unfinished basement. With the addition of an extra door on the front of the house, we wonder if it was the intent of the homeowners to use the basement as an additional private dwelling space for family or rental in the future. While we appreciate projects that create density in our neighborhood, we also need to acknowledge future possible use with all projects and make sure that it suits the neighborhood block and that parking and other concerns are addressed. And we have received a good response from these homeowners on our suggestion for permeable paving and down-facing lighting.
Great, thank you. Any questions for the neighborhood association? No, thank you, Sandy. I have 3 people signed up to testify, and we'll go through these ones. And then if there's anybody else in the audience or online, they can testify afterwards. First up, I have Phil Norton. Hey, Phil, if you could state your name and your address.
Hi, my name is Phil Norton. I'm at 1515 North 26th Street. So that's just a few blocks away from the project. My wife and I have been in the neighborhood for quite a while. We live in a 1905 craftsman bungalow at 26th and Hazel. A few years ago, we completely restored the exterior, and we won a Orchid Award for historic preservation from Preservation Idaho for that work. So, my wife and I, we both have a keen interest in keeping our North End neighborhood true to its roots while upgrading these old houses to modern standards, suitable for raising children while working at home. I have the same problem. We have one office. My wife and I both work from home part-time. Fortunately, I work right here at Clearwater, so I can just zip into the office when I need to, but oftentimes we're fighting over, who gets to use the big screens in the office. So I understand what that's like. I really like this house. The interior is great. I'm really happy that it's not just getting thrown into the landfill and starting over with something that looks like it belongs in Meridian. I think this house looks great. I think it fits right in with the neighborhood. It's an aesthetic improvement to the existing non-contributing home. brings it more in line with the predominant craftsman style of the neighborhood. They're opening up half the original porch and upgrading the original, the aluminum windows to the true North End style. It's just like many neighborhoods, many neighborhood homes, including my own. The project retains and upgrades the existing facade while echoing the bracket-supported overhanging roof gable in the larger addition behind it. This is quite typical of many nearby houses. Just a block away, you'll see one that looks very, very similar, and I can bring up some pictures if you're interested.
Sure.
I got some pictures of the nearby homes along the street.
Thank you.
Okay, so regarding the size of the proposed home, it's full 2 stories, it's taller than its neighbors. It's not unusual for the area. My house is the only house that's bigger than 1 story on its block, and it's been that way for 117 years. So I don't think that it doesn't belong on the block. It was the first one. If you just take a walk around the neighborhood, you're going to see a whole lot of large 2-story homes, even in blocks that don't have 2-story homes. Just at the end of 22nd Street, you're going to see a 1955 Craftsman. That's a 2127 Ellis. It's a full 2 stories. It's got a huge solar panel array on the southeast roof, and it's nestled among a bunch of single-story bungalows. I won't go into all the details of the other houses nearby. Suffice to say, just 1 block away, 2 blocks away, even down the street on 22nd, there's a lot of houses that have been added onto from the original small houses. Oh, I'm out of time.
That's your time. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
All right, next on my list, I have Bob Regalia. All right.
Chair, I have a question. You have a third. If that third person is going to talk about the house, I'd like them to go first. I'm going to talk about the people.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Mike Woodring. We need your name and your address, please.
Hi, thank you. Mike Woodring, 1101 North 22nd Street. My wife and I own a home that's a 1-story. I'm not sure I understood the comment about not being on the same block. We're on the same street. So across the street, 2 houses down, corner of Eastman and 22nd. I did file written testimony in support. So I just wanted to say, I just wanted to echo that. We appreciate the time, expense, and effort they put into restoration as well as improvement. We appreciate the aesthetic of the additions being sort of set back. And as a neighbor with a little 1-story cottage, 1939 era, we don't object at all.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Regalia, you are up. You just need your name and your address, please.
Thank you much, Madam Chair and Commission members. Bob Regalia, 1119 North 21st Street, corner of Brumback. My wife and I have been there for 8 years now. We share the alley with the Maxfields. My interest here is the preservation of the North End, and just as important is keeping here as many young families as we have here now and getting some more. I bring no technical expertise. I really want to talk about the people. I consider the Maxfields to be in a class of neighbors who we need and want to keep here. They are friendly, always willing to help neighbors. We've lived in the North End for 8 years. I walk 2 to 5 miles a day, all year long. Harrison to 26, Sunset to Ellis. That's my walking path with the dogs. I see our neighborhood up close and personal every day. Seen a lot of changes in the last few years, some not good. A lot of people moving out of the North End. Homes too small and expensive. Then we have the investment funds buying homes. We have more rentals, absentee owners. Airbnbs are increasing in our neighborhood. Remodels that make you forget what was there. On the plus side, 2 came to mind. We do still have families moving in and remodels that preserve much of what was there. In December, I went over to the Maxfields and saw their predicament firsthand. Those parents have done wonders with that small space. 1 bathroom, you're lucky you have boys and not girls. I have 4 girls. It was just, could not comprehend. Boys are growing, it's decision time. Do they tear down and build a whole new house? Do they go up, which is what they chose to do, or I think it was mentioned, could go down? Any parent, at least me especially, will tell you, you don't want to go down. You must hear your children. You can't hear downstairs. We have a whole full downstairs. I can't hear anything down there. You want them above you. You want to hear what's going on. You want to go up. I don't know anybody that wants to go down with young boys or young girls. Our biggest fear, my wife and I, is we will lose these two couple and their family as neighbors. I looked at their plans. I heard their passion for preservation from both of them. This was not just two people talking. They are committed to preserve and keep as much out of landfill as possible. You've heard that tonight. I was not actually aware of their background, so I can understand. I have wrote stewards of the environment. They are. What's not to like here? An asset to the neighborhood and beyond. I got an update this morning from the Maxfields, and I respectfully say they have demonstrated cooperation to change while still maintaining a space that will meet their needs along with their concerns for the historical preservation and conservation. When it's done, I expect to walk down the street and look at this home and say, it belongs here. That's how I feel about this home and their presentation. I ask that the Historical Commission please allow this good for the neighborhood family and stewards of our environment to remain here by approving the revised plans before you tonight. Now, I will admit I jumbled because I heard about the 3-minute delay.
And you're
My
at
initial-
time.
Okay, can I just say one thing? 'Cause
Thank
it's
you.
Directed to you.
We have to end at time, so it's fair for everybody with their 3-minute or their 5-minute.
Okay, I'll share it with you later because it's about you.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else from the audience wishing to testify on this project or online? No? Hearing none, we'll have the applicant can come back for rebuttal and you can touch on any of the points that you've heard.
Do you need my name and address?
I do need your name and
Noel
address.
Martinez, 231 Warm Springs Avenue, Boise, Idaho, 83712.
Thank you.
I want to just address a couple things mentioned, and I appreciate the opportunity that they were brought up so that we can address them. One of adding photovoltaics to the garage roof. It does face east and west. You can still get some gain from that normally, but we have a really gorgeous tree that blossoms right next to the garage, and they don't want to eliminate any of the large trees. There's another one further south that pretty much puts the garage roof in significant shade. So it's unfortunately doesn't help with the solar array and was not a recommendation from their solar provider when he analyzed it. With the height, I just want to clarify that, let's see, the south neighbor, currently that home is actually a little bit taller than the existing home, but I mean, it's a kind of a moot point because of course we're adding height to the building. They do need more space. But that there are some homes that are already taller than what they have right now. Also the home kitty corner northwest of where they are that was highlighted on that map earlier. I just want to emphasize also just that we so appreciate their neighbors, so many of them being in support. Their neighbor, I think immediately to the south is
Our neighbor and our neighbor across the street.
right, have both written in their approval of it. I think they have a lot of their neighbors very excited. And actually the one letter was opposed to some structural concerns, of joist height and things like that. But actually mentioned in their opposing letter that they really liked the aesthetic of the home and thought it looked great in that street. So I just want to end with those comments and appreciate the neighbors.
Thank you. And the homeowners, would you like? Yeah, you have 3 minutes left.
Mike Maxfield, 1112 North 22nd Street. It should be super quick, just about some of the previous comments. The house directly across and maybe slightly diagonal from us is 3 or 4 feet, within 3 or 4 feet from our proposed height. The house directly across the alley from us is 4 feet taller. And, Noel's map showed the houses around. There are numerous houses, very close to us that are within the same height or taller. And just on our exact block, there's two, the one house that's very close to our proposed height and another house that's also a second half story. They're not all 1-story houses. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any questions for staff or for the applicant before we close the public portion?
I have a quick question. Richard, the site design, the totals are supposed to equal 100, correct? The site design, the totals are supposed to equal 100, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so this one equals 95, if I did my math correctly, which I'm not a math major, so.
I got 95 as well.
And the existing ones didn't equal 100 either, so I don't know where we're off.
Yeah, I didn't get them even equal to each other. I got 96 for the existing.
Could it be the front porch? I'm not sure if that's it in there.
I
no, that
suppose
one. Because as Nana had pointed out, the front porch doesn't count towards the building's coverage. That might be where the missing is coming from.
Yes, but as you say, the devoted to building plus, all three of those together should equal 100. So there is just a little error somewhere in those numbers. Yes, 60, 70, 80, 90. Yeah, should be more site devoted. 58. Yes, so I would say that the existing and proposed, the as far as what's devoted to square footage, I think that we do have a 34 to 35 is accurate, and somewhere else in there, I may have just done some numbers wrong, but I have pretty good faith in the definitely in the building coverage, staying within the 35% is I cross-check that carefully, but somewhere else in these numbers between the original submissions, and maybe slight changes. Although I think the footprint did stay pretty much the same in the reproposal. So yeah, that's just bad math, bad staff report math. So, but I think that the most important, the key portion of that for what we want to see for lot coverage, I have good faith in those numbers.
Okay, Commissioner Malloy, you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant or for staff?
Could I just have Noel follow up to that? Can you confirm that roughly the footprint hasn't changed?
Yes, it absolutely has not from the first submission. And from the original home, the footprint has, as you can see, going from 30 to 34.
Sure.
But from the changes in the last month, no changes to footprint at all.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any more questions? No? Okay, with that, I will close the public portion and I am open for a motion or a discussion amongst the commissioners.
I'll start off. I agree with the staff's findings of denial for this application. I do appreciate that all the effort to make it, a green house. I really do appreciate that. It's one of my biggest complaints that we don't see enough of that when we're doing new construction or somewhat new construction. I think for me, the overall height of 29 feet, 7 inches, that is a large, what is it? 27 feet. Okay, that's still a pretty tall house. 27 feet, 11 inches. And then also the metal roof is a hard no for me. So I don't know if exploring the basement option is something that you can do, or reducing not square footage, but the height somewhere else. But it's the overall height of the building really gives me heartburn, and the metal roof really gives me heartburn. And it doesn't meet the standards as outlined in the staff report. And walking through the north end just recently for the home tour, there's a lot of really tall new construction that I am not overjoyed to see in the north end. So I think we really need to stick as close as we can to getting these heights to what their historic neighbors are.
I believe the applicant said that they would be flexible on the roofing material. I want to say I really like this project. I feel like we hear a lot of greenwashing and, you know, this is a sustainable project with a bunch of things that aren't sustainable. But this one, you are, you know, developing within a neighborhood. So we already have the road infrastructure. We already have the utilities in place. You know, we see these creative projects developed outside of cities because that's where our code allows them for. But really, if we want to be sustainable, we need to develop within the neighborhoods that are already established. And I think when we're looking at the future and what the city's goals are, like these are the types of projects that we want to see. We want to see preservation. We want to see things out of the landfill, and we want to do, you know, use technology moving forward better than we have in the past to be more sustainable. It's unpopular opinion. I don't mind the metal roof, especially because of the reasons you've given. I think that the height maybe is a little problematic, but I also appreciate that you have done your work within your neighborhood and that the people who are living here and established here are coming forward and saying that they approve of this project. And I feel like that does carry weight.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I think firstly, I want to say what beautiful, touching testimony that was from your neighbors. Because ultimately, what it comes down to is those are the people that are going to be interacting with you, forming your community. And it is not common to see people say things like that. So I think that's wonderful. I also think it's pretty refreshing to see a project like this come forward. We don't typically see people wanting to do huge remodels off of their existing house. They want to demo it and build their brand new home. And so I commend you for that, because that's a lot. I also I'm not big on the metal roof. If that's, you know, I know that the applicant said they'd be flexible on that. I just don't, I'm not sure of what kind of precedent that could set moving forward. And the height does concern me a bit. Those are kind of my thoughts at this point.
Again, echoing all of the comments that are, you know, in support of your really good efforts to work with the existing structure and not just scrape it and start again. I appreciate how, while it is tall, I do appreciate pushing the taller portions back from the front of the property. I think that helps. Quite honestly, one of my biggest, and the metal roof, I don't think that would be appropriate either as something that's not appropriate. I think one of my biggest hangups as the new guy on the commission is just the large slab of roof that is on that south-facing side with the solar array, and I appreciate exactly why you're doing that to maximize that area. The overall form is a little bit awkward with that, but I don't know that that's enough for me to support denial. I don't know. It's a bit of lots of things going on in my head. I will say that. So yes, thank you.
Do we want to continue with discussion? Does somebody have a motion?
I mean, maybe not a motion for me yet, but continuing the discussion, we're voting on the plans that are in front of us right now. And yeah, I don't know. I also have lots of words jumbling in my head. Maybe Commissioner Pape has something to add.
Madam Commissioner, or Madam Chair, I do agree with a lot of the comments that have been said. I also, some of my qualms do pertain to the shape of the front elevation. I do find that a bit awkward in the large slab of roof on that south elevation. I have to agree with. I do have some issues with the height as well. But I really do respect what has been done here, and I'm very excited to know that this kind of stuff is happening in our own neighborhood. So I really do give kudos to that. I think as like many of us here, I'm very torn. I'm very torn, and I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm excited about it. I think a lot of discussion would be necessary for me to get on board completely.
Madam Chair, could we potentially defer this to next month and have them work with staff on a couple of elements?
I think we'd need to come up with specific things that we want them to work on. And I think we also need to acknowledge that this is a non-contributing structure. And so the fact that they're keeping it, I think is important to acknowledge, and that they're working with what they have when they don't necessarily need to. Staff, do you have thoughts on?
The result of what you see today is based on an initial consultation that staff had with the applicants based on the prior submittal. So these changes are the changes that have already been met. I cannot speak to what the applicants are willing to do to further that and to consider your recommendations of either the potential of a basement alternative or what they could possibly do to reduce the massing. But there is that potential, and the applicant can give further evidence of a willingness to make some revisions and come back to maybe to the next meeting with a substantially revised plan that addresses the solar, the quantity of south-facing slope, the solar issue potentially, and they may be able to produce something for the February meeting that is more in keeping with what we're looking for.
Okay. Thoughts? Yes. Yes, please. Yes, please. It's for the record.
Of course. Mike Maxfield, 1112 North 22nd Street. I really appreciate the feedback. Certainly a few of those things we've heard before. I think plenty has been said about the metal roof. We thought it was ecologically beneficial. It clearly is not the right idea. So as we said in the presentation, we're okay not doing that, right? I think that's an easy. Regarding the only other thing I wanted to say is regarding the mass of the roof face itself. We actually went through this, and from simply our family needs, and this part is irrelevant for the basically demand reduction side of the energy efficiency. We would love more space on the upper. We had to do a ton of work with 5-foot ceiling and trying to shift that mass away from our next door neighbor who has a yard right there, who incidentally is one of our support letters. On the record, we considered dormers on that side, which a flat dormer would work just fine with the solar we need. We did not do that because it reduces the overall mass of the house. And we were able to find a way to constrain the square footage on the upper story enough that we didn't have to do it. And like Noel said, with the large setbacks on our neighbors to the north, just no matter what we did, keeping the facade and making the addition, it ends up with some asymmetry. And we just didn't add more mass where we didn't need it. Now, that said, if dormers would break up that mass, I certainly have no problem with that. I mean, it's just more space, but we omitted it because it wasn't needed, and it just adds more visual from both our neighbors and from the street.
So I think we're to the point right now where we're deciding whether we're voting on these plans tonight,
Yes.
or if you want to do some tweaks and come back and have us vote next month.
Respectfully, we've spent years trying to find a way that we can keep the house and get what we need. And we do a bunch of DIY. I'm an engineer with lots of projects. Our basement is already a 3/4 basement, and it's in use. That's an impossibility, unfortunately. So yeah, I mean, and obviously the dormer stuff, you could add that as a contingency. We're happy to comply, but it's totally up to you guys. And then I think the roof is already settled, right?
Okay, so you want us to vote tonight? You don't want to come back?
We've been going at this a long time, trying to keep the house. I think it just has to get voted or not happen. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. If it's like new information that's going to help us make the decision, that's fine. If it's just like a compelling argument, we're probably through that. Okay. I think we're probably through that portion, but thank you. Okay, so it sounds like we're voting tonight. I don't know if you want to make a contingency based on dormers for a plan that we haven't seen.
It seems like a fairly large risk in my view, and not to design from the bench. But yeah, I don't think I would be comfortable in doing that.
Okay, fair enough. So do I hear a motion?
I just have a couple more comments. I feel like there's some, I really wish they would go back because I feel like there's some areas where they can just improve design. There's a lot of things looking at the floor plan, a sitting room, a lounge, a living room. I just feel like there's some things where they could bring in like, where they could convert certain rooms to other rooms so that we're not getting that height. And that's really where my concern is the height. And I think there is wiggle room in their design. They might not get everything they want in their house, but I feel like to meet the standards for new construction, which is what we're looking for and what Richard has done this analysis and come up with a denial for, I feel like there is wiggle room in the design to improve it. Maybe not get everything you want, but get the things that you need. We have to think about what our wants are and what our needs are. So what do you need and what do you want?
So our place is to vote on the design. They could fill their house with bouncy balls and it's none of our business, right? And so however they want to use the space, it's how they want to use the space. This is the design that we're going to vote on. So I think, you know, they put it forward, they're defending it. We need to decide if we're going to approve it or deny it.
In that case, I will make a motion to deny the project if everybody is okay with that.
Do I hear a second? Or an alternate motion?
I really don't want to second this. I really don't. I'm looking at standard number 9 per staff's findings. And I feel like there still is opportunity for the applicant, as Commissioner Malloy said, to take it back to the drawing board and make it compatible with historic materials, features, size, scale, and proportion and massing to protect the integrity of the property and its environment. As the applicant said, so much work has gone into this, years in the making, it sounds like, and I would hate to see that just be thrown out. There's so much potential here, and this could be a property that really does set a positive precedent in the neighborhood and in the district for being a truly green, energy-friendly home. I don't feel comfortable denying the project as is, but I don't feel comfortable approving the project as is. So I know that we don't like to defer, but I would move to defer the project.
So if we defer it, right now, it sounds like we'd be seeing the same thing when it comes back next month.
In that case, I would move to defer and give the applicant some direction in what we're looking for, to decrease the massing, decrease the height if possible. And let's see. So according to staff's findings, mass and form, the roof and the facade of the form being asymmetrical may be an issue with making the overall design work, but I think revisiting that and maybe that south elevation somehow making it I don't think so. Is that allowed?
He asked
I
a
don't.
question.
I don't think so.
The applicant, no.
No, I'm sorry. Specifically, I think the biggest issues are the height. nearly 28 feet to the peak. I would like to see that come down if possible. And I think with that, removing the metal roof, and somehow working on that scale and proportion, I would like to see this come back.
Okay, so do you want to retract your motion or?
Yeah, I'm up for a deferral based on Cindy's
Madam-
recommendations and the staff's recommendations in their.
All right, legal. Yes.
Yes, Madam Chair, just a point of order. When a motion fails to get a second, it just dies on the floor. So there's no need to withdraw. And then it would just need to be a formal motion put forward for a second.
Okay, thank you. So the first motion is dead and we're waiting for a second motion.
Okay, I move to defer item DRH 22-00432. Based on staff's analysis and findings, so the applicant can come back with a new design, taking into account the height to width ratio, the mass and form, and roof materials. Also noting that the Secretary of the Interior standards for the treatment of historic structures, standard 9, be taken into account.
Thank you, Commissioner Montoto. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Malloy. Please call the roll.
Pape,
Aye.
Maroney,
Aye.
Montoto,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Parks,
Aye.
All
All in favor, motion carries.
All right, so on to our next agenda item, DRH 22.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, before we start, can we possibly take a bathroom break?
Yes, let's take a brief recess and be back here in 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you.
Staff approval.
Thank you. All right, it's been 5 minutes and it seems like we are all back. So we will resume with our meeting. Next on our agenda is DRH 22-00450, Don Jerome. The address is 1516 North 15th Street. Certificate of appropriateness to modify the materials on a previously approved new single-family residence in a single-family residential and historic overlay zone. Staff, can we have the report?
Here's a revised elevation which shows some this area. Microphone. Oh, sorry. Start over. Green. Yep. Very good. Sorry about that. This is the site of the property. This is the original DRH 22-00010 elevations. And this is the modified elevation, and you will see that there's an area that's brick at the front to the left, and that has an email that's attached to the packet, was in the packet and is attached to this presentation, indicating that staff thought that was appropriate. The issue at hand is that the siding material was conditioned to be smooth, and it shows the current situation is that it is a textured material. And the windows that were installed, the original condition said that the mutton should be, on the exterior face, and this one has, I believe, interior only muttons. Here's the staff email that makes the brick really not part of the question here. It's just the incompatibility of the materials used for the siding and the windows. And here's the condition from the original DRH that shows that, the materials that were meant to be used. And here are some photos that show the look of the textured siding and the windows. You can see from the reflection, especially from that photo, that it is maybe an intermediate, but maybe just an interior mutton, but definitely not an exterior mutton. And my analysis is basically what I just went over, but that's the issue at hand. And with that, the staff recommends denial.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
I have a question for staff. Was this a code compliance violation that was submitted to?
Yes.
Any other questions? No? All right. Is the applicant here? Or online? Online, great.
Hi, are you there?
Yep, we need your name and your address, please.
Okay. My name is Dawn Jerome with D2S Construction. My address is 15050 10th Avenue Circle, Caldwell, Idaho.
Thank you. And you have 20 minutes.
Okay. I have been in the home construction business for most of my life with my father, who was a local custom builder in the Treasure Valley, and I've been on my own for about 5 years. I have built and renovated over 50 homes in the Treasure Valley last year alone. I'm an interior designer and have worked on the North End homes for about 7 years. I have worked tirelessly in this home, and I want to give a kudos to Josh Wilson because I have called and asked for his guidance along the way, and he has been very helpful. Every material decision made in this addition has been properly run by the City of Boise, permitting and to meet the historical compliance. From the start of this project, we received approval from the Historical Commission in February of 2022, and we subsequently received permits from the City of Boise. I do understand the reason why we are here tonight is primarily to discuss one of the 3 items that might be of interest. The first is regarding the siding that was placed on the home. As required and as reflected on the approved plans, we installed hardy siding on the exterior walls. Although the approved plans called for smooth hardy siding, my materials vendor unfortunately delivered texture siding instead, which was completely wrapped and covered up upon delivery on the job site. The siding was delivered on November 11th, and my crew began installing the material on November 15th. November 11th, I think, was a Friday. November 12th, I unfortunately became seriously ill and was in the hospital, and I was out for some time. I was in constant communication with my crew. However, those guys would not know one way or the other, smoother texture, what was appropriate for the project because they were just the installers. When I received the letter, when my homeowner received the letter, I immediately went out to the job site and unfortunately saw that it was the texture siding, and we stopped installation. However, over 3/4 of the house is installed because the guys are quite efficient. We are going to be fixing the window issue, the Pella windows installed, interior grids on those, and they are going to come back and install exterior. So that problem has already been addressed. The siding is a much, much bigger deal because, like I said, 3/4 of the home is already installed with the hardy siding. I did, just to do my due diligence, I went around for a 2-block, for 2 blocks on 15th Street, just to kind of look at what some of the homes have. Now, we didn't choose to do textured siding because of this, because we really did call out smooth siding on the plans, as you can probably see. And of the 15 homes that I took pictures of, there were 3/4 of them that had a textured steel siding or metal siding, and any of the windows that we saw within that these homes that that are on the pictures that you guys have available to you, all of them have interior grids. I am definitely addressing the interior grids. Pella is going to take care of that, and within probably a month, that problem will be taken care of. But the siding, again, is a much bigger deal. Had I not been in the situation that I was in medically, I would have been there. Unfortunately, that's not what the case is. So we are going to be putting new siding on the garage, and I am going to definitely be putting smooth siding on. But I'm just asking if there is a way that we can leave the texture siding as is. I've done a lot to this home that has not been required by the historical district, and I've listed some of them in the letter that I attached. On all of the soffits, they're 24 inches, which would be very much what historically in that era what a home would have been instead of a standard 16-inch. The fascia, instead of having it straight up and down, I did it at an angle, which at a considerable cost to my homeowner. But that again is something historically that a traditional craftsman that era of home would have had. Also, in trimming around the window sills we put down at an angle also, because again, that would meet something that historically they would have done back then. I've just taken a lot of care and time and effort to make sure we're good neighbors and we do what is appropriate for the historical district. I think it's very important. This is an unfortunate situation. It certainly was not done purposefully. As you can see, if you went by the house, I have stopped the installation of the siding, and until we could have this meeting. And I hope that you can see past that and let us keep that siding on the house as is, and know that when we do the garage, we will definitely be installing that smooth siding that was required. I do appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Jerome. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair, I do. Ms. Jerome, do you happen to have a receipt or a purchase order of you originally ordering the smooth siding?
I do. You guys don't have that, but I definitely do. And if you notice, when you send in plans to somebody like BFS or Franklin, whoever's going to be your supplier, they go strictly off of what the plans are for that. And on the plans, it clearly states a smooth siding.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? No? All right. Is there a registered neighborhood association present that would like to testify on this project?
Madam Chairwoman, Sandy Herman, 1404 North 7th. Nina would like to remind all our neighbors that a certificate of appropriateness is a legal and binding document, and that contractors are obligated to use the materials agreed upon. We are concerned not only for the correct and appropriate materials are used, but also about waste when and if these changes have to be mitigated, and brand new materials are sent to landfills. This is becoming an issue widely in the North End. And we wonder if there could be a materials inspection prior to installation process put into place.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions for Sandy? No. All right. Thank you. With that, we'll open it up to public testimony. I don't have anybody on this sheet. Is anybody present in the audience that would like to testify as part of this project? No? How about online? All right. It looks like we have some online. And Josh, if you can let me know. Looks like Paul Boyce is up first. Paul, we need
Hi.
your name and your address, please.
Yes, my name is Paul Boyce, 1514 North 15th Street.
Thank you. And you have 3 minutes.
Okay, I just live south of this house, and just listening to everything tonight, it's been kind of eye-opening. The scrutiny your commission puts on additions and new homes and new construction, and I guess I missed the boat on how these plans were approved to begin with, because this house it just doesn't belong in the north end. I mean, it's a monstrosity, really. It totally covers our backyard. We have no privacy anymore. The bedrooms look right into the upper floor looks right into our bedroom. But regardless of all that, the plans were approved. I get it. But seriously, I don't know how those plans were approved to begin with, but if anything else is going to detract from the historic nature of that house, which it has zero, in my opinion, I just don't think the commission should give exceptions. I mean, at least, hold the contractor accountable and make her, put the right siding up that belongs in the neighborhood, even though the house itself is just, in my opinion, doesn't belong anywhere near in the north end. Maybe Meridian, but not the north end. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And I believe we have somebody else. And we just need your name and your address, please, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Will Sanchez, 1516 North 15th. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak here. So, overall, I think the house looks really great. I know the kind of work that Dawn Jerome puts into her homes, and I've seen other work that she's done, and that's I think that's why she should be commended with the work that she's done here. I know that she takes great care with the materials that she selects, and she does her best to be in compliance with the district, and also work with folks like Josh Wilson and City of Boise. So from a distance, the house looks great. The siding, you can't really tell if it's smooth or textured when you're at the street level. But you could tell that it was placed in professionally. It does add the appropriate character to the home, and it was done with great care. So, I think having that hardy material, is good because it's going to last as well. And I think a lot of the homes, as Dawn was saying previously, a lot of the homes have either metal or vinyl siding. And when you take a look at the windows, those have issues as well. So, I thought the representation of the photographs of the 15 homes gave indication that not all the homes are currently complying with the guidelines that are set by the district. So, I would be in favor to keep the material installed as is. And so, that's all I wanted to contribute here, but thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Do we have another online? All right, and I don't think we have anybody else to speak. The applicant does have 5 minutes of rebuttal time. So she's still online? Yeah.
Yes, thank
All
you.
right, done.
Yes, thank you.
If you could just state your name and address again, and then you can have your
Okay.
5 minutes.
Yep, it's Dawn Jerome, and address is 15050 10th Avenue Circle, Caldwell, Idaho. And I do appreciate the neighbors. I have worked diligently to be a good neighbor during this process. And, it's always hard to have construction, and I can totally appreciate that next to your home. But I do want to reassure you, we have worked very hard at that. We have met every other guideline. Like I said, the windows are definitely going to be taken care of. And that, like I said, that should be within a month that happens. But the siding, it would have not happened. It's not, I was not being negligent. Again, I did order the correct and had it on the plans, the correct siding. It was hardy, but it was definitely defined as smooth. It's an unfortunate situation. We would be putting a massive amount of siding into the landfill. And I want to, you really cannot tell a difference. That's not an excuse. You cannot tell a difference from the street side. Honestly, if we did real wood siding, it would be textured. And I don't see a lot of difference there. However, my request is, just because we do have literally 3/4 of the house, maybe a bit more sided already, if we can leave the siding that is on there, and then anything else that we do on the property, which would be the garage, would definitely be the smooth siding to meet the requirements. Some of the neighbors that did have a concern with it, even on their homes, they don't have the correct siding. The neighbor right beside us has metal siding. The original home that we started with had metal siding. So I just am working very hard to make it appropriate for what the historical district deserves to have down there.
Thank you. Does anybody have questions for the applicant or for staff before we close the public portion of the hearing? No? All right, Don, thank you so much. With that, I will open it up to either a motion or discussion from the commissioners.
It's unfortunate that she was sick, but I support staff's recommendations of denial, because it's probably going to happen again. We see it all the time in the historic district. So I think we have to put our foot down.
Madam Chair, just to echo off of Commissioner Malloy, our districts absolutely do have houses with inappropriate materials on them because of mistakes like this, or negligence, or, we've allowed exceptions in situations like this. And so they do exist. But, if we continue to allow things like this to happen, this is going to be all over the district, and people are going to try to use it to justify their new applications coming forward. Well, 17 of my neighbors have this type of window or this type of siding, and so why can't I have it too? And it really is unfortunate. I would suggest the applicant reach out to the manufacturer wherever she has that PO of the siding, and have them try to figure it out in the same way that she is working on it with Pella. But I would also support denial of this application.
Do I hear a motion or more discussion? Commissioner Parks?
Madam Chair, I really have nothing more to add other than just to reiterate the importance of materiality in our districts. Granted, mistakes have been made over the 100+ years that the districts have been, the homes have been here. But that's not a reason to continue the bad behavior. And that materiality, like I said, exists for a reason in maintaining the character of what makes these districts so great. So I would be in support of denial.
Okay. I appreciate that the applicant has already begun to remedy the window situation. And I do want to reiterate that we take things on a case-by-case basis, precisely so we don't have all of these mistakes or questionable projects come to us and say, look at what they've done, right? Because we don't want to use those as examples. We don't want this to become another example of something that was allowed that maybe that shouldn't have been. So unless anybody has more discussion, I would love a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to deny DRH 22-00450 based off of staff's findings and analysis in the staff report.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Park? Please call the roll.
Pape,
Aye.
Maroney,
Aye.
Montoto,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Parks,
Aye.
all in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to our last agenda item for the evening, DRH 22-00436 EV Studios, and the address is 811 East McKinley Street. Certificate of appropriateness to construct a duplex on property in an R2H medium density residential with historic overlay zone. Staff, can we please have the report?
Yes. This is the site location for the property. This aerial shows an existing structure that was has since been demolished, or moved, I should say. And so now we just have an open lot to be infilled. Here's the site plan for what's proposed. It's a duplex, as mentioned before, a 2-story duplex. Here are the elevations, sort of the front elevation, rear elevation, and some isometric drawings to give a sense of the overall size and massing and roof forms and other elements. And there's further drawings demonstrating the look. And this is a rear 2-car garage or double garage, 2 double garages. That's also proposed detached garages. And existing homes on the block are the mix of single 1.5 stories and some 2-story structures with simple forms. There are 2-story structures on the adjacent lots, so the height is congruous with those 2 structures. Though the width of the adjacent properties are generally 22 to 28 feet, and the 3 nearest properties across the street are 26 feet wide. The width of this duplex is 55 feet, and due to the atypical shape of the property being sort of a trapezoid, as you're approaching the property along the street, it will make it seem wider because of the odd angles and how that works. And the overhanging yes, therefore the building does not maintain or blend with the widths of buildings of the adjacent size being nearly twice as wide. The overhanging upper stories at the 2nd story rear portion of the duplex are of an atypical design that is not typically seen or if at all seen elsewhere in the historic district. And the odd geometry of it being a trapezoid, the odd geometry of the floor plan generates a very complicated roof form with it's confusing look, and that's not congruous with the roof forms found in the historic district. The design guidelines say that new construction should not use architectural details or ornamentation that confuse the history or style of the building. This proposed duplex shows porch posts that are kind of maybe a Greek revival appearance, while there are decorative brackets that sort of evoke the Victorian architecture, and the overall design is somewhat reminiscent of a Craftsman 4-square form. New construction in a historic district should be compatible to other properties, but not a pastiche. Standard 9 states that new construction will be compatible and with all these things. And as demonstrated above, this property is construction is of an incompatible size, scale, and proportion and massing, and therefore does not meet the standard. With that, staff recommends denial.
Thank you. Do we have questions for staff at this time? Okay, not hearing any. I'd like to ask the applicant to step forward and please state your name and address. And then you have 20 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Amanda Bidwell with EV Studio, 725 East 2nd Street in Meridian, Idaho. Sorry, he's pulling up my presentation here.
And you have control, yes.
Thank you. So what I'm presenting here tonight is a duplex located on McKinley Street. These are the plans that were submitted with the application, a site plan where you can see the 2 different units and the garage at the rear, as well as the landscape plan. This is a floor plan kind of showing a little bit more how those are laid out, and they do step kind of back from each other a little bit, which I'll get into more in a minute. These are some of the elevations which Richard has already showed you. get through this a little bit quickly. I have kind of what's proposed and then staff concerns and my proposed solution to the staff concerns. So the main thing that was commented on is the massing of this project. Richard stated that we don't comply because the adjacent buildings are ranging from 22 to 28 feet wide, and our building is 55 feet wide. However, 5.2.3 states that it is appropriate to add a new building which is wider and higher than buildings on adjacent sites if the building is broken up into smaller segments. This building is 55 feet wide, but it's split into two distinct sides that are 24 foot and 26 foot wide. There is also a concern of the second floor overhang on the back of the building. The proposed solution is to redesign the floor plan so that that overhang doesn't exist anymore. We did receive a letter from a neighbor providing a suggestion to step the buildings. That was the initial intent of the design. My proposal there would be to increase that step and make it a little bit more dramatic so it's more obvious. And then just a statement that there are other fourplexes and triplexes in the area across the street and actually next door. So the duplex is congruous with that. There is another concern that the odd shape of the site makes the west elevation more visible from the street. The neighboring property, which you see on the left side there, has a similar issue. You can see their full west side, but it is blocked by a tree. That's kind of the same intent that we have on our project. If you look at the landscape plan, there is a large tree proposed out front to help screen the west side of the building from the street. There was concern of odd shaped roofs because of the unique shape of this site and trying to maintain the facade facing the street on an odd shaped site makes for an odd shaped building. We did propose using gables and hips to help decrease the oddity of that roof, and we feel it does comply. But I have made a proposal to shrink some of the porch roofs so that they don't wrap at an odd angle anymore. There was also a concern mentioned of Greek Revival columns, Victorian brackets, and a Craftsman foursquare proposal. My solution would be to propose removing those brackets and squaring off the columns so that they appear more Craftsman in nature. Based on all of this, I believe that we do comply with Standard 9, fitting in with similar materials, similar massing, and similar form. We do comply with all code on this project. We're not proposing any variances. We meet the FAR requirements and dimensional standards are met. This is some before and after of what I would propose as solutions to staff comment. This is the before site plan, and this is after. I made the step in the building more dramatic so that it does more distinctly appear as two separate buildings. Just further floor plan before and after, you can see the step is much more dramatic there. So the before elevations. And the after, you can see I removed the second floor overhang from the rear of the building, and I squared up the columns to make it more Craftsman on the front. This is where you can also see I removed the wraparound porch so that there's not a hip roof at an odd angle. Before on the sides of the building and after. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Does anybody have questions for the applicant?
I have a question. Did you explore any other options for the site? Like a lot of different historic districts had courtyard housing style apartments or duplexes. Did you like toy with any of those ideas? Or making them like a U shape or anything like that to make more of a break between the two?
We did not look at any U-shaped floor plans to create that courtyard. I did have the intent of creating a little courtyard between where the garage sits and where the duplex sits. There's some raised planters in there to help kind of separate each tenant's space. But with the shape of the site, it just gets a little bit difficult to take mass out of the center and push it to the side.
Other questions for the applicant?
Can you confirm the proposed lot coverage?
Yeah, it's 20, it was 29%. Or sorry, it was 28% when we submitted, and with this change, it would be 29%.
Thank you.
Any other questions for our applicant? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if there is a registered neighborhood association here and wishing to testify, now is your time. Please state your name and address, and you have 20 minutes.
Make it quick. You guys are here late. Madam Chair and Commissioners, my name is Sheila Grisham and I live at 1204 East State Street, Boise 83712. And I am here tonight to testify on behalf of the East End Neighborhood Association. Ina testified back in July of 2022 expressing our concern for a 944 square foot home that originally sat at 811 East McKinley and was moved in exchange for an application of a single family home that was 3,766 square feet. At that time, we asked the commission to please deny the application due to the setbacks, size, massing, and materials, also the lot coverage percentage. We are now standing before you and asking you once again that you deny an application for this property with the same concerns. This time for a duplex that will be a combined square footage of 4,072 square feet, which is even larger than the original application. The two-story massing from the side-to-side setbacks along with the front-to-back side setbacks do not match the historic district's guidelines for massing and scale. Referencing the design guidelines for residential historic districts, new construction should be congruous with the historic context, with reflecting contemporary design and preserving traditional spacing between structures. The plans for this home are not congruent with its surroundings. As I stated above previously, the size, massing, setbacks are not congruent with the East End Historic District. We're not opposed to having duplexes in our neighborhood. We have a lot of them, but they are mostly single story. There is a couple of two-story ones, but they are really short because they were built in like the 50s or the 40s. They don't take up a lot of the square foot or the percentage of the lot coverage, and they blend in with the rest of the neighborhood. And so Ina is asking that you please deny this because we just don't feel it fits within our historic district. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Any questions for Sheila? No? Thank you. All right, with that, I will open it to the public. I have a couple people on my sheet. First up, I have Daniel Hutchinson. If you can state your name and address, please, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Daniel Hutchison. I live at 102 North Jantoni here in Boise, Idaho. Jantoni is just east of the East End Historic District, and I drive either up Washington, down Washington to get to my neighborhood, or up Warm Springs. So I'm very familiar with 111 McKinley Street because it's on a very common route I use to get home, or when I'm out walking the border collie that I have to make the loop through the neighborhood. Also, for disclosure here, I have spent the last 55 years working in historic preservation, both through education, working 25 years with a federal agency in preservation, and then another 25 years as a private researcher and consultant. But I'm here not as a professional historic preservation person, but as a person that lives and frequents this, near this neighborhood and frequents it, and asks that this project for 811 East McKinley Street be totally redesigned to maintain the single family household that the lot has been for their whole history. We know that the East End Historic District is predominantly a single household neighborhood with a mixture of diverse housing types of duplexes, triplexes, and even some apartments and townhomes. But the predominant nature of the community on the East End is single family households. Adding additional duplexes to the already mixture of single family and multifamily units only adds to the density that leads to contributing to the destruction of the overall character to the neighborhood. You can have a neighborhood with predominantly single family homes that can tolerate a mixture or diversity of housing types and still maintain the character. But at some point, you've introduced so many multifamily units that becomes a predominantly multifamily unit neighborhood with a small mixture of single family residents. And that totally changes the character and the livability of the neighborhood and forces longtime residents out because it no longer meets their perceptions of what a neighborhood should be, and brings new people in that results in destabilizing the neighborhood. So I'm encouraging the board to deny this application and send the property owners back to the drawing board to produce a single family home that fits the lot and the characteristics. And this particular lot is even more important from a visual aspect of the historic district than others in the East End, in that it sits right at a key intersection along the access up McKinley Street and the break off to go up Washington Street. So thank you for your time, and I hope you deny the project.
Thank you for your testimony. All right, and next on my sheet, I have Sheila Grisham. Okay, just wanted to make sure you weren't testifying again as a resident. All right, is there anybody else in the audience wishing to testify for this project or against it? It looks like we have people online. Yes, all right. If you can state your name and address, then you'll have 3 minutes.
Madam Chair, Allison will be first.
Allison, thank you.
Hi, Allison Uten, 822 East McKinley. Most of my concerns have already been expressed, but I would still like to go on record. And while this is a new plan and a new presenter, the concerns are the same as those we all expressed in the first go around with this property owner. And as neighbors, we're looking for compliance in design, setbacks, massing, historical details. And this proposal is now larger and contains the same concerns that we've had before. So this is not going in the right direction. And we've had a lot of collective frustration with this property owner. So this unfortunately isn't going in the direction we all had hoped. And I know some of us received certified letters informing us of the design of this duplex. Speaking for myself, I don't have any, seeing the change to these designs tonight is the first I've seen from the original proposal. So not sure in the certification process of notifying neighbors if we were supposed to get one that had the new design as well. The density is a concern as well. The square footage is much larger than the original redesign, and certainly obviously much larger than the original 900 square foot. And we have a lot of traffic concerns in this area. So with those thoughts that have been duplicative of a lot of them that have already been expressed, I would just like to request the denial of this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. And I think there's somebody else online.
Madam Chair, Elizabeth is next.
Elizabeth, if you can state your name and address, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and committee. Thank you for being here so late this evening. I would like you to deny this particular proposal. Everything that I was going to say has already been said as well, but I will reiterate it for the record. One thing I do want to state is this proposal is 4,000 plus square feet. It is a multifamily, multi-bedroom, multi-story connected duplex, and it is beyond reasonable in size, scope, and the reference of the historical context of the neighborhood. The size and elevation does not, as suggested, match the adjacent structures, which are tall, but they are small in overall square footage. And the building mass, elevation, and window placements will intrude on the privacy and shading of neighborhood properties. The garages, plural, approach and compromise the shared back alley as well. Structure setbacks are important, particularly at this very busy intersection. This is a visually impacted spot in our beautiful East End neighborhood. And it would be nice to have something that would complement the neighborhood feel. The density of these two connected, this duplex is extreme. This massive structure is too much. And one thing I would like to add is some of the exterior design elements I would like to applaud. I do believe that there was effort put forth in that. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Do we have anybody else online wishing to testify?
Madam Chair, Amber.
I'm sorry, who?
Amber.
Amber, perfect. Amber, if we can get your name and address, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi there, Amber Grant, 803 East McKinley. So I am the neighbor on the other side of Elizabeth who just spoke. And I agree with Elizabeth. I think some of the changes aesthetically were definitely or should be applauded. However, being the neighbor directly to the west of them, I will say this house is, or this duplex is a monster. It is tall. It will be taller than my home. I already worry about privacy in the house that they had submitted prior to. I'm not sure that I understand quite what this couple is trying to accomplish. I know them, through being neighbors, and they initially wanted a 1-story larger home for them. And it has just kind of continued to snowball. And I have concerns about traffic. I have concerns about it not fitting into the aesthetics of our neighborhood. So I too would deny building this as well.
Thank you, Amber. Do we have more online, Josh?
Madam Chair, that's it.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I will invite the applicant back up for your rebuttal. You have 5 minutes. If you can state your name and address again, please, for the record.
Yeah, thank you. Amanda Bidwell, 725 East 2nd Street in Meridian, Idaho. So some of the concerns that were mentioned, there was a smaller home on the previous lot, and this is replacing it with a larger lot coverage. I understand that concern, and we did pay a lot of attention to making sure we have the building smaller than is required by the city. We do exceed the required setbacks on this project, and it is underneath the required lot coverage as well, to make some open space on the back. There are also concerns about density in this area. And as I stated previously, there is precedence for that in this neighborhood with other multifamily developments nearby. One thing I forgot to touch on in my initial presentation is privacy. We did pay attention to which direction windows are facing, and windows directly to the sides, where the smaller setbacks are taller windows, so that they're not looking directly into the neighbor's privacy or into the neighbor's yard. And then as well on the back, we have the garage shielding the bedroom windows that look out onto their private courtyards, so that they aren't looking directly into neighbors' yards. There was concern about adding garage on the back. I think that that's better than not having the garage, because there's places to park so that there's not off-street parking, and it pulls some of those cars out of the streets. Wanted to touch on the comment about certified letters. That was an error on my part. I thought we needed to submit for the certificate of appropriateness and the duplex at the same time. Those letters are required for the duplex application, so new ones will go out when we do go to make that application. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? No? Any questions for staff before we close the Commissioner Park?
Yes, quick question for staff, just for my newness. The process, so it's R2H zone, which allows for single family. So does it also allow for duplex as an allowed use? Is that right?
Yes. What is that quantity? Duplex or more? Definitely a duplex is allowed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes.
So duplex is allowed, is an allowed use for the parcel.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, great.
All right. Thank you. With that, I'll close the public portion of the hearing and I'll welcome a motion or discussion on this.
I'll open discussion. I support staff's findings of denial. I think the massing, the height, it is off. It doesn't meet the standards like Richard has outlined in his analysis and findings. I think there could be some creative ways of adding a duplex here. I think adding a duplex fits within the neighborhood. We can look at other cities and other parts of our city anyway, with courtyard housing that was prominent in the 20s and 30s, I think is a creative way of adding a duplex or even a triplex to a historic district that would fit in more so than what is planned currently.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I would concur, Madam Chair, with the notion that some density duplex is appropriate for this spot, or could be a nice add for this property. It is, I would acknowledge, definitely a uniquely shaped parcel that demands a unique solution. But I feel that what's before us, even the revised plans today, while they do address some of staff's comments, the overarching notion that it is still a very complexly shaped building with a very complexly shaped roof that is not congruent or sympathetic to the district.
I love seeing a duplex here and, seeing multifamily integrated into our neighborhoods, especially as we're thinking about how Boise's growing and where we're putting people. But I agree with some of my fellow commissioners that the massing is off. I'm glad that you're within the lot coverage, but it just needs to fit better within the neighborhood, and we're kind of missing that mark right now. Other discussion or emotion?
Do we have feelings towards like a deferral again to work on the design or flat out denial? I'm good with either. I don't know how others are feeling.
On Toto or Pape, do you have any thoughts as to a deferral or a denial?
Madam Chair, I think I would move towards a deferral based off of what I've thought about this. I mainly want it to work. I appreciate the design and the concept. I just don't think it's quite there yet. And if there's an opportunity for us to redevelop it, I would prefer that over complete denial.
Madam Chair, my thoughts are, given the testimony, not only from the neighborhood association, but from the neighbors, this proposed duplex is going to be over 4,000 square feet combined. And I just feel like, given the massing of this proposal, it's going to take a lot for them to rework it. And I don't know if it makes sense to defer the project. If they're going to go back to the drawing board, I feel like they're going to have to scrap it and go back to the drawing board. But I would support denial of this application.
All right, does anybody want to make a motion?
I'm good either way, so whatever you all think.
Madam Chair, I move to deny DRH 22-00436 based off of the findings and analysis in the staff report.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioners Montoto and Malloy. Please call the roll.
Pape,
Aye.
Maroney,
Aye.
Montoto,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Parks,
Aye.
all in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. And with that, that closes our meeting for this evening. We'll see some of you next month. Thank you for coming out.